You ever notice you feel the most like yourself when you're alone? No pressure, no expectations, no adjusting how you act. Just you. But the second you're around other people, something shifts. You talk a little different. You act a little different. You think a little more before you speak. You filter things without even realizing it. It's subtle. If someone asked you, you'd probably say, "No, I'm being myself." But deep down, you know there's a difference. It shows up in small ways. Things you don't say, jokes you don't make, opinions you keep to yourself. Even your energy changes. You go from relaxed to aware, from natural to controlled. And after a while, you start catching it in real time. Like, why am I acting like this right now? And that's where it gets uncomfortable, because now you're aware of it, but you don't really know how to stop. So you just keep going, and later, when you're alone again, everything drops, and you feel like yourself again. For me, I've always been more of a loner, not in a negative way. It's just what I got used to. So being alone felt normal. It felt easy. I didn't have to think about how I came across. Didn't have to read the room. Didn't have to adjust my tone or energy. I could just exist. But when I was around people, even people I was cool with, there was always this underlying awareness. Like part of me was present, and part of me was watching myself. Making sure I stayed within certain lines. And I remember noticing this one time after being out with people. Nothing went wrong, everything was normal. But when I got back home, I felt this weird sense of relief, like I could finally breathe again. And that didn't sit right with me, because it made me realize being around people felt like something I had to manage, instead of something I could just be in. I think a lot of this starts earlier than we realize. You pay attention to how people respond to you. What gets approval? What gets ignored? What gets judged? And without even thinking about it, you adjust. You keep the parts that work, you quiet the parts that don't. And over time, those small adjustments stack up. So now you got layers. A version of you that fits in. A version of you that avoids conflict. A version of you that keeps things surface level. And then there's the version of you that only shows up when there's no one else around. The unfiltered one, the relaxed one, the one that doesn't have to think. And now you're stuck in this space where you're not fake, but you're not fully real either. You're somewhere in between. And that's exhausting, because it's not like you're putting on a full act. It's constant small adjustments, and those small adjustments add up. That's why you can be around people for a few hours and feel drained after. Not because the people were bad, not because anything went wrong, but because your mind never fully relaxed. You were always slightly on. And if we really strip it down, a lot of it comes back to this. You don't fully trust how people will respond to the real you. So you stay controlled, you stay measured, you stay within a version of yourself that feels safe. Not free, just safe. And I don't think that makes you fake. I think it means you adapted. You learned how to move through different environments without creating problems. That's not weakness, that's awareness. But when that becomes your default everywhere, you lose track of what's actually you. I don't think most of us have a fake personality. I think we have a restricted version of ourselves and an unrestricted one. And the only time we feel unrestricted is when we're alone. So now the question isn't, why am I different around people? It's where do I feel like I can't be myself, and why? Because that answer matters more than anything. Because if the only place you feel like yourself is when you're alone, that's not really peace. That's just the only place your guard drops. And once you notice that, you can't really unsee it. So now it's just something to pay attention to, not fix overnight, not force, just be aware of it. If this felt a little too accurate, just sit with it for a minute.